Welcome, everybody, to episode 9 of the Step 1 podcast, where we help you take your first step or your next steps in business and in life. And I have a fantastic guest for you today, a dear friend of mine. And today we're talking about his extensive experience working directly with and supervising programs for substance use and co-occurring disorders for both adults and adolescents over 25 years old, or for over 25 years. We're going to be talking about Ken Pecoraro, right? Pecoraro, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Awesome. I know I messed up in the past, but we're going to dive into his story in just a little bit. But Ken is, like I said, has become a dear friend of mine. And you guys are going to want to listen to this podcast over and over and over again. We have a lot of awesome information we're going to be covering with his extensive experience when it comes to mental health. But obviously, as always, I have some rules and asks for everybody listening here today. Number one, knowledge without implementation is just the start of delusion, and really it's just entertainment. So make sure you take massive levels of action on all the information you take notes on here today, as well as if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments section or hold them off to the end of the podcast or any of the live streams you might be listening to this on. Comment it down below and I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as I can. And number 3 is, listen, don't be afraid to share this information with people you feel like need to hear it. It is imperative, especially when it comes to mental health, to share this with all of your loved ones, friends, and family. So nonetheless, let's introduce my guest. So Ken has received his master's in social work and his degree in 1996 from Rutgers University, and specialized in casework with an emphasis in addiction treatment. He's also been licensed. He's also a licensed clinical social worker since 2000 and licensed and certified alcohol and drug counselor since 1997. As I mentioned earlier, he's got a crazy extensive experience when it comes to working directly with people going through substance use and co-occurring disorders for both adults and adolescents. And he's also worked for CPC, an organization I've been supporting for quite some time, in a beautiful, beautiful organization in the healthcare space, located in Monmouth County since 2001. And he currently serves as the Director of Addiction and Co-occurring Services for the agency. Ken, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for that nice intro. It was very extensive and awesome. It's good. I always like your energy, Henry. It's great.
I appreciate it, my man. Well, look, we got a lot to dive into, and I know you've been on a separate podcast we've done before, but I want to dive into your story. I really want to rewind the clocks a little bit. I want to know more about your childhood and you growing up and how you came to be in this position, because you were basically living a life of service. And I want to make sure I show that off. And I want to make sure I want to remind you of how special you are in so many people's lives, the impact that you're truly making, because not a lot of people do that. So please rewind the clocks for me. How did you get to where you are today?
Oh, okay. All right. The Ken Pecoraro story. Okay, we'll give you the short version. Yeah, I mean, I've been around mental health and addiction my whole life. Family, friends. I mean, it started... my parents divorced when I was 9, and my mother didn't take it very well, and she kind of spiraled out of control, and ended up having some problems with alcohol and anxiety and depression and things like that. So she was my primary caretaker, so I was kind of thrust into a caretaker role. You know, a lot of social workers actually have similar stories to this from a young age. So then, you know, with that also came the lack of kind of supervision. So I hung out with a lot of kids that were troubled as well. And from a young age, I kind of noticed something about myself, that a lot of people were coming to me about various problems, you know, whatever, you know, hey, Ken, my girlfriend broke up with me. I feel like killing myself, or, you know, I'm getting bullied, or I don't know, am I doing too many drugs? You know, you name it. My phone was like the hotline of my town pretty much, from a young age. So between that and my mother, I remember I literally said to myself, I had like a epiphany. I was like, I should just go to school and just become a counselor and get paid for this. I'm doing it for free anyway. And it really was that simple.
Wow.
And one of the best things my mom ever did for me, and she is sober now since I was 23, so 27 years. Well, this August will be 27 years.
God bless.
But even in her addiction, one thing she did, she went and got a job at Rutgers. And I got a free education out of that. So I took it to the full. I got the master's degree with it, and I'm very grateful for that, because I don't know if I would have had that opportunity otherwise. I mean, I did have to get in, but sure. So and that's it. I've been a counselor ever since. That's all I've been doing. So I went from amateur counselor to professional counselor, and started in the minors, and here I am today. It's all I've ever done.
That's amazing. And again, like, you truly live a life of service. Like, when people bring, like, whenever I hear the word mental health or service or giving or anything to do with just serving people, I think about you. I really do. And it's just like,
It's nice of you to say.
well, because I want you to know that, like, look, because I have a lot of entrepreneurs that I have on here, right? And it's a beautiful thing to be an entrepreneur, but to me, nothing matters more than impact, right? I mean, you know my story of going through the mental health challenges that I've had. And it's like, my heart is so into the mental health space and just giving and helping people. And it's like, and obviously I'm doing it somewhat as being an entrepreneur, but like, when you live a life, like, my overall goal is to give like you give, later in life, right? Like, I want to be able to speak around the world and share my experiences and share mental health tips and strategies to help people all around the world. Just like you are, and you're changing the lives of so many people. So I just want to commend you so much. For
let me go back at you with that one. I've seen you in action, Henry, and I've had you out to I had you out to a group at CPC, and you were fantastic. I mean, you were connecting with some people with some, that group is pretty hardcore bunch. A lot of people in that particular group were using heroin and lots of mental health struggles and serious ones. And you were connecting and people were identifying with you. And then, after you left, they were still talking about you. And I remember even when I closed out, it was a 3-hour session, but you were there for the first hour. Even when I closed out, people were reciting some of the things you had said. So that's a gift. That's really, it is. It's not just, not everybody can do that. So you walk the walk as well. So which I appreciate. That. Yeah,
of course. Well, listen, like, I want to unpack your story a little bit, just because I feel like you and I, in different ways, had very similar upbringings. When it comes to call it mental struggles, right, or just struggles in general as a kid. And I'm sure you're seeing this now more than ever. I mean, mental health is a crazy challenge for teenagers and young kids right now. I mean, COVID, as much as we want to say that it had the financial impact that it did on adults and, people in the real world per se, but just on kids. I mean, I feel like so many people are overlooking the ridiculous mental impact that it's had on kids and on their mental health, and I want to unpack your childhood. I mean, like, so you said that, your parents were divorced and now you went through the challenge of, you said you were spending more time with your mom?
Yeah. Mom was the primary caretaker.
Right, so I want to understand, like, because I'm a single mother. I have a lot of empathy for people who grew up in that capacity, and again, shout out to all the incredible moms out there, right? And I have a wonderful mom and a wonderful father, but just those people who like really take care of us at such a young age, they don't understand. Like, you're so impressionable, right? Kids are so impressionable. And obviously, like, you are probably a huge, you probably learned so much from your mom. Probably a ton of what to do, but a ton of what not to do, kind of thing. Probably pretty similar to me. So I want to unpack that story a little bit. Like, what was your relationship with your mom back then, and how has it changed to today?
That's interesting. I mean, we were, it was always kind of, we had my sister too, but I was, it was always the two of us kind of trying to survive and trying to make things work, and we still have that kind of closeness. It's just different now. I'm older. I have kids of my own, and
sure.
But
I meant more. Let's talk about more of like even a professional relationship in the sense of like now what you do versus like you going through that. You know what I mean?
Well, as you had said, it gives you a lot of empathy. You know what it's like to be in that situation where you don't know what to do. You don't have someone to help you, and you got to figure it out yourself. And you go to your friends and they don't always give you the best advice, and you make a lot of dumb decisions along the way. And that's why, my story is it's the typical story riddled with a lot of bad decisions, some arrests along the way and different, school problems and things, and I'm very grateful. If I got two things out of it, I've got a lot of empathy and I got a lot of gratitude. I see a couple of things, like near misses. I could have been on a different situation, much different situation. So I'm very, yeah. So
I think that's so powerful, and because again, I can relate so much, man. I can relate so much. So again, I'm saying in the sense of like, listen, because I know that depression has riddled, it's really broke its way through so many people's lives, and I feel like a lot of people are going through it. I'm just curious, do you really feel like that? Do you feel like, what do you feel like are some triggers that cause people to be depressed?
I mean, people want hope, and talk about a world that hope can be harder to come by. People want something to grab onto, you know what I mean? And, when you're like in the ocean, you want to grab onto a life raft. And when you don't feel like you have that and you're just in the waves, you can understand why someone say, hey, I'd rather just take me under. I don't want to struggle like this anymore. So, there is a sense of hopelessness, I feel like, especially for the younger generation now. And that's kind of very toxic and very chronic. And that's a big problem. People
Sure.
need that. And then the other thing would be support. It's funny. COVID was something that really threw a lot of wrench. It really threw a wrench into things with both those, the hope and the support. Now we're doing everything virtual, but there's nothing like those human connections. You know what I mean? They say when you go to the hospital, it's not your Facebook friends that are going to come visit you. You know what I mean? It's people that you have those close, personal, face-to-face relationships with. And that's who gets you through the tough times. You know what I mean?
I feel that.
Yeah.
So, speaking of social media, how do you think social media is really affecting mental health today?
Oh man, don't get me started on that topic. I'm not going to be one of those old people that social media, it's the devil. It's there's some good things about it, and I have social media and I use social media, but you know what I do constantly? When I'm using social media, you got to think with everything. And there's times where I'll be engaging in something, and I'll say, is this causing me more stress or pleasure? And if it's not leaning towards pleasure, I disconnect. Because there are things you can feel very invested in them, but social media can cause you a lot of unnecessary stress. You could be thinking at work about a comment someone made on your picture, you know what I mean? And you're trying to get, it's that insidious sometimes. So it can be, you just got to watch. You got to be careful. You got to set limits, all that stuff.
I feel like that's so, I want to unpack that for a second, because I feel like so many people don't realize that social media probably, or most likely, and there's obviously, I don't have the statistics or the data, so I'm not trying to talk off the wall here, but I have to imagine it brings more stress in people's lives than it does joy. I have to imagine, right? There's just no way that social media can truly bring more joy in one person's life than it can bring than it does stress. Impossible. And look, I've seen it in my life. I've seen it in thousands of other people's lives that I've connected with. Because you hear it time and time again, especially with younger kids, where it's just become this crazy popularity contest times 1,000, and bullying times 1,000, and all these people where they can hide behind screens these days. And it's not like it used to be, because they used to have to come to your face, right? And not a lot of people would say anything, but now they can hide behind a screen, and I feel like it's just created so much more challenges in life. Right.
Okay. Right. Yeah. But people say, yeah, if you do ever want to get agitated, you look at the comments, and the longer that comment chains, I'm a big basketball fan, and there's times I'll look at an NBA post and then read the comments, and it's like, oh, this is breaking into a political hate speech in a basketball post. You know what I mean? Like, why can't we just enjoy basketball? You know what I mean? Like, and you can say that about anything. Star Wars. I'm telling you, it happens on all the. People do come out. The trolls come out, as they say. Right? Really, in
every single front, every single time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible, and I think that it's powerful to realize, like, if you can really take a break from social media, if you and look for myself, because I'm all over social media, I delete the app most of the time. I really don't have it downloaded. My team takes care of a lot of it, and if I have to go on for whatever reason, I try to push it off until later in the day. Right, I go on for 5 to 10 minutes and I just delete the app. I just don't need it. There's no reason for me to have it. Or I push it to the very end of my screens, because I have like 10 screens on my phone of apps. I just push it all the way back because there's just no need for it. And I've been in a situation where you kind of get into those weird habits of clicking it. Right? Which is just weird, because I'm a freak about my habits. And when I catch myself on it, it's terrible. So let's try to just unpack. I want to dive more into mental health and some strategies to help people through it. So, because I'm sure you've heard the words "I'm depressed" or I have anxiety, or I'm going through whatever challenges, and I'm sure you've heard it all 1,000 times. I know we've talked about this on other episodes. What are some things that you feel like people can start doing right off the bat to start helping them get through Because I feel like a lot of it's acceptance. Right? Acceptance that you can do something about it. Once you're aware of it, you can start moving forward from it, right? What other tips can you share with people?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about acceptance, you're talking about getting started. I mean, even before that, just admitting and kind of open. I think a good thing to do is to be willing to ask yourself those uncomfortable questions. Like, am I depressed? Is this sadness or is there something else going on here? Like, everybody gets sad now and then, or everybody gets nervous now and then. But is this becoming something that I don't necessarily have as much control over, or has kind of gotten a hold of me, to be able to, because nobody wants to admit to themselves that they're in a place of weakness, and to feel like you're depressed or anxiety. It's like saying, oh no, there's something wrong with me, but it's so important to take the, I hate this, it is a cliche, but it's a very true one, to take that first step. And to do that, you have to ask yourself honest questions and be ready to give yourself honest answers and to sit with those. And then when you're ready to the next thing, is to talk to somebody else and say, hey, doc, hey, counselor, hey, friend, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? And then you get a second opinion, and then you start to say, hey, maybe there is something here. And it's, it's not a death sentence. It's not even a life sentence. Sometimes it's just an episodic thing where, there's no shame in getting a little help for a little while. There's no shame at all. And I wish, we talk about stigma. I wish that would go away. The stigma of, oh, he's crazy, or he's weak, or he or she's, what's the matter? Because that person went to go get help. There's nothing. Everybody should feel comfortable for getting help, whatever help that is. So,
I think that's important. And it's like, look, I mean, help can be done in several different forms, right? And just because you're asking for help or guidance or an opinion of somebody else's, I agree, it has no bearing on your strength. It has no bearing on your confidence. It has no bearing on the person you really are. So just take a step back and realize, like, you need to do this because, listen, I ask for people's opinions all the time. Hey, I'm experiencing this. What do you think? Right? I am feeling this way because I know this occurred. I'm feeling this. What are your 2 cents? And I'm open to feedback. I'm open to coaching. I'm open to understanding and having questions asked to me to make sure I can work through it. And I've just over the years, I've just gotten to the point now where I just assess it myself, where I literally just walk through this exact thing. Hey, X happened. This happened to me. I'm feeling this way. Why? And how can I do something about it? I've rewired my mind to only think in solutions. And it's taken me a very, very long time to get there because I've been in the only look at the problem for a very long time. And I feel like you're in your little box and you don't know how to look outside of it. But now it's just like I've been able to train myself. And I feel like everyone needs to learn to train themselves eventually through counseling, through, mentorship and other things and guidance from other people, how to self-assess. It doesn't mean there's any problems. I'm the first one to raise my hand. Do I have problems going on in my life? Yes. Do I have challenges going on in my life? Yes. Is there things that I'm not exactly thrilled about in my life? Yes. But that's everybody. And take a step back and realize you're not alone. All of us are going through this. We all forget we're human. We are freaking human. We have problems. We have challenges. We have things that happen. And we have emotions. And those emotions can go crazy. Because there's no emotion book. There's no emotional guidebook. There's not. And we all just do the best that we can with the information we have, right? So, I want to kind of dive into your 2 cents on people who are going through this hopelessness, going through this frustrated feeling, going through these moments of struggle. Right? Is there a question or 2 or 3 that you could share with me that you think that asking themselves is important? Like, what are the questions you should ask yourself if you're going through this?
Wow. Okay. So I would ask myself how the one thing that makes something go from standard just day-to-day feelings to like more of the getting into disorder areas is their life impact. I would ask myself, is this affecting my functioning? Getting honest. Am I working? Is my work performance lower? Is my parenting not as effective? Is my whatever it is whatever it is you do? Is my anxiety? Is my depression creeping into those other realms? And if other people, if they were interviewing my children, my wife, my boss, would they say, yes, I think so and so is not functioning up to potential? So though that's definitely like a good indicator as now you've moved into problem area. Because everybody says that, like somebody who's an alcoholic, for instance, you ask that person, they'll be like, they might even tell you, I'm even better when I'm drinking. Yeah. And then, but ask everybody around them, they're like, no, we like that non-drinking version of that person way better. That person's a lot, calmer, happier, more functional. So sometimes it's asking yourself and asking other people and getting a broad perspective and being ready to listen to those answers. But functioning, is it impacting your functioning? And you'd be surprised, there's how depression can become like, increased sick days, coming in late, just kind of slacking, and it has ways of manifesting itself, or being irritable and treating people harshly and hurting relationships because you're depressed. And sometimes with some people it comes out as irritability or even anger or lashing out. So that's one thing to look at. How are you? How's it kind of branching out into the rest of your life?
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And again, that comes with that self-assessment, right? Really look at your life at a 30,000 foot view. Take you and your emotion out of it, which I know can be tough, right? Because the first thing we want to do or end up doing is feeling, because it's like you have, choices and actions are different than feelings. It's, we don't have as much control over the feelings. You're allowed to feel. It's just, whether you should or should not act and in which way is really what we do have the most control over. So again, listen, it's not like there are moments that I don't feel, the pressures of life, the pressures of sadness, the pressures of anger, the pressures of, I feel these things. It's not like I don't get angry in life, it's not like we don't get sad or frustrated or even like a little bit upset, right? But I think that when you could really take a self-assessment and say, how is this emotion serving me? How is this affecting me? And what can I do about it?
Right. And then you kind of led me to another thought on the same topic, because I agree with everything you're saying. And then the thing to think about with emotions is they're not always rational. You can have all kinds of feelings, and people like to have, they like to understand the why, or like they like to be able to make it fit into a lane somehow. But with feelings, it's not always like that. They creep up on you, and you can have all kinds of crazy feelings, and you might not understand them, and they will impact your behavior and your thinking. So, and you can't always trust your feelings as well. So, there is a lot more searching to involve when it comes to feelings, and that's where things like therapy get involved. It's like a therapy kind of. People think of therapists, they're going to use special techniques to help you to solve your problems. Really, what they're going to do is help you to solve your own problems. It's pouring rain over here. I don't know if that's coming through.
It's coming through.
So they're going to just basically guide you. Imagine your brain is like a jungle. They're kind of like that person kind of helping you cut through the weeds to find a path through it. But it's your jungle. You're finding your way through. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Yeah, and searching your feelings and getting into what it's all about. And there's not always an answer, but it ultimately comes back to when you can become at peace with things and start making good decisions. And the actions, that's what matters, And that's how you started this.
Agreed. And look, emotional intelligence really is the mother of all principles. When you really understand emotional intelligence, which is acting with intention, right? Acting with intention, feeling with because like you said, I believe all feelings are irrational, to be honest. Right? Because it's not like you have control over the feeling. The feeling is just something, all of a sudden it just happens, right? It's not a rational feeling, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. They're sort of all irrational, right? They all just happen, right? And sometimes, because anyone can interpret a beautiful, we can all see the same thing happen. A lovely couple, kissing on the side of the road, and we all of a sudden can have these feelings.
Yeah.
Right? And some of them could be, that's adorable and loving and whatever, or some of them could be frustrating because people have had previous experiences and whatever, right? It doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's just how you react to those feelings. Like when I was going through my depression, my reaction was to do nothing. It was paralyzing. It was debilitating. I didn't do anything, and I wanted to hide. However, now if anytime I have those same feelings, which again, the feelings happen still. It's not like I don't feel those same feelings. It's just that when they come in, I am able to recognize them. I'm able to see them for what they are and then choose how to act afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really a powerful point. So I want to dive more into, let's talk about more about relationships and other things that are going on in life, because I feel like relationships, I'm not even just saying with a significant other, but I am saying with even friends or family or anybody, right? It really comes, like a lot of us probably even have somebody who's going through these hardships right now. And I think that it's important for people to, I want to get your opinion on this. I think it's important for people to be so unbelievably empathetic for every person's circumstances. However, I see this as we are all going, like the only way to be that empathetic is by you living your best life unapologetically. And because I feel like so many of us kind of hinder and change our lives and do things that actually don't make us happy or help us live our best life because we're trying to do X, Y, and Z for other people. Right? And I want to get your 2 cents, because I know you see it from 1,000 people's perspectives all the time because of the people you work with. Like, my life really started to change for the better when I worked on me first. I was selfishly working on me first so I could be better for everybody else. Right? And I feel like so many other people are like, well, I have to do this for my mom or sister or brother or sister, friend or whatever. However, we're not right. Right? And
it's the old cliche, and we've heard it, about the airplane. When the oxygen goes out, who do they say put the oxygen on first? You got to put it on yourself, because then you can't save your kids or your family. So, and it's true. It's true. If you're a mess, how are you going to help other people? When I'm with working with counselors, people talk about imposter syndrome, which is a natural thing, and everybody experiences it. But you're definitely going to get a lot worse imposter syndrome if you really are an imposter. And if your life is a complete wreck and you're trying to help somebody else, you're in the back of your head. Like, imagine if you were, doing drugs and trying to help somebody get off drugs, or if you were, whatever, beating your wife and running a domestic violence. Obviously, there's going to be cognitive dissonance. So yeah, you have to clean up your own backyard, so to speak. Obviously, no one's ever going to be perfect. But if you're not putting the work in, how are you going to help other people? You know what I mean? It's 100%. It's like like the blind leading the blind. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree. And I think that when people take 100% control over their life, take 100% responsibility for their life, and realize that, like, listen, other people are here to quote unquote help, but no one's doing it for you. Right? The information's all out there. People like Ken, and there's a lot of people like Ken out there in different forms who are here to help. Right? And and I try to say I'm one of them, hopefully, right? And it's like we're all here to help. However, we can't do the work for you. And when I feel like when the shift really comes, when you go from pointing and blaming other people and start pointing and blaming yourself. And it's not a bad thing, but just take responsibility for it, because you're putting the responsibility on the world, on other people, your friends, your family, whoever's doing it to you. When you take 100% responsibility for what's going on and realize you are the biggest leverage point of change, when you see that wholeheartedly, that's when life becomes this open possibility. This book of opportunities. And so Ken, in your personal opinion, do you feel like depression is something that is genetic, or do you feel like it's something that could just happen to people?
I think it's both. I think that there's a genetic predisposition. Some people are definitely more prone to it than others, just like someone's more prone to cancer or diabetes. But there's absolutely a behavioral and a lifestyle component to it as well. And then there's situational components. A loved one dies. Depression is very tied to loss, and it doesn't have to be loss of the person, loss of status, loss of a job, loss of whatever. You can almost always trace back what did a person lose or feel like they lost. But it's kind of all the above. I think it's much more complicated than just to say it's just this or it's just that.
Yeah, because I just my. The reason why I bring it up is because I feel like a lot of the time, especially because I feel like it's depression has become such a major thing with younger kids now. However, I keep hearing the aspect of like, oh, just put them on medication. Put them on antidepressants. Where to me, I mean, I don't believe that, like, why would that ever be the assumption? Right? Because again, like, I'm not in your shoes, so you see it from more also of the medical standpoint. Right? And I'm not naive to say that, like, there is some people that need the medical help, right? There really is. I mean, it's not uncommon for that. However, I feel like too many people are relying on medication and not enough people are relying on themselves and counseling and mentorship and help, right? And the work, like doing the work, right? A pill's not going to change that.
Yeah, there's a thing called protective factors, and you can increase protective factors in your kid's life and in your own life. You know, things like having supports, having coping skills and outlets and hobbies. You know, those are things that decrease the likelihood of depression, or if you have depression, they decrease the intensity of it. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. When there are situations with a true clinical depression where, like, medication can be that extra piece that gets somebody from, like, immobilized to, okay, let's talk, let's try. And I've seen it work and I've seen it help. But yeah, I mean, you can't understate the importance of putting in the work and getting down and dirty with what's going on inside that head of everybody, and figuring out what's going on and making some changes as well. So it's a multifaceted approach. It's a multifaceted disease. So it takes a wide range of approaches as well. So
yeah, no, I agree, and I think it's powerful. Where you say that there is a lot of protective approaches that people should be taking every day to make sure it also does not happen in the future. Just because you don't have it today doesn't mean you should not be working on protective approaches, right? And constantly working on yourself, and and really putting up these I would say barriers, but, like, I feel like I've built a steel wall around my mind, where, like, I just don't, when certain thoughts come up, they just hit my head, they bounce off, they're not allowed in. My body is, I've protected my mental, I've created a mental strength that has allowed me to work through a lot of things and not be debilitated by that now, right? So do you also feel like anybody can feel depression or anxiety, or is that just it only happens to certain people?
I mean, I think it could potentially happen to anybody. I mean,
of course.
I mean, the right circumstance happens to anyone.
Yep.
I mean, but people react in different ways. I mean, you could be in prison and still be a happy person. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not, because things are a state of mind, you know what I mean? And people make the best of the situations that they're in. And they're, again, through doing the mental work and making the choices, you can rise above different situations. I use an example. There's a person who can get into some kind of disease, a car accident or something that maybe they can't walk in again. And then there's the person who's going to be that constantly live pining for that life when they used to be able to walk. And there's a person who says, I'm going to be the best person who can't walk that that they can be, and I'm going to move on in spite of this. And there's that's oversimplification of a lot of different factors that happen along the way. But, things like resilience and grit and all those terms we hear about, they are real things, and a lot of that it starts up here, you know what I mean? And, but it's about putting in the work, and it takes time. To think that you're going to just snap your fingers and get over it. That's not realistic either, and there's no shame in taking some time to do that and going to see a therapist. You get dumped by your significant other and it hurts and you need to go talk to somebody for a few months. Why not? There's no shame in that. It hurts to go to a breakup or whatever it is that's bringing you down, but you can spring back. People have come back from some pretty, there's some life stories out there. It's one thing about a counselor. You hear some of the things that people overcome, and it's like, you think about your own life, and you're like, whoa, how did I ever complain about anything,
Yeah. So give me one of the biggest springbacks you've ever heard. Somebody went through something crazy, and now is just at such an unbelievable place in life.
Oh, I should have prepared something for that.
Anybody, first person that comes to mind, like the most successful story you've heard.
I'll just say in a general sense, when I think addiction is my primary thing. When I think of how low addiction has taken people, and Yeah, I give you. I mean, a good friend of mine who now works at CPC. She tells her I do a lot of speaking gigs. Well, you should have her on, Nick. I'll tell you about her after. I don't know, but she's a disbarred lawyer. She lost everything, and she had a good job. She was a lawyer, successful. She had the prestige that came with a lawyer. Lost it all to addiction. Lost her kids. They've taken away. At one point, living homeless and doing all kinds of things to survive, and. Now she's back again. She'll never be a lawyer again, but no, I shouldn't say so. She's fighting to be a lawyer again. As far as right now, the state is saying she never will be, but maybe she'll win that fight. Let's hope for her. But now she's making a career as a counselor, and she's making a comeback. But it was she went really low. She went really low there for a while, and I don't know that that everybody would have come back from that, because you see a lot of people, they live in the past, the good old days, and
I get that. Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful thing to see that like your current circumstances do not dictate your future, and anybody who goes through any aspect or any facet of mental health challenges in life, a lot of them end up just there forever, and it's terrible, and it's sad, and it's sickening, and it's hard to feel that and be there, right? But when you hear how many have beat the odds, have overcome all these challenges, have done whatever it takes to climb back to the top, it is so empowering. It is so beautiful. It is it's an unbelievable story, and I've heard dozens of them, hundreds of them. And lots of them we read about in books, and lots of them we watch movies about them, and they become these unbelievable people, but everyone is susceptible to mental health challenges. Everybody.
We got to get your story. We don't have time now, but on one of these podcasts, because yours is the same thing. The kid who didn't know where to go and was on the wrong, socially in a tough spot and getting bullied and all that stuff. And look at you now. You're in the driver's seat, and that's why I admire all that you're doing, because I see that it is completely sincere, and you're not just doing it in front of a camera. You're doing this 24/7. In my conversations one-on-one with you, I see it. You're living this, and it's so you got a story of your own there, Henry. It's good.
No, I appreciate that, man. Listen, I'm just trying to play my part, because I feel like when you do go through it, and you are, I wouldn't call it lucky enough, but you are determined enough and power through and have the grit and do whatever it takes to climb through it and get out of it, we have a responsibility. I don't want to call it luck, but it's an unbelievable amount of gratitude, right? Because I don't know, why God gave me that ability, or He put the right things, the right people in my life to help me get through it. I don't know why He did. I got put on the right path for thank God. But now I feel like I have a responsibility. That responsibility is to make sure I can help as many people overcome it as well. Right, and be that guide, because there was a lot of people in my life who were like that guide, and I want to be that for other people.
Well, you're doing it, and it means a lot. It means a lot to a lot of people.
You mean a lot to me, man. Listen, so question, right? So all this stuff is going on, right? And we talk about social media a little bit. We talked about, environments a little bit and how these can cause certain challenges. What is your take on food? You think food can cause depression, like as in certain items that we're putting in our body? Is that something?
100%. I mean, if there's an area of research that's like skyrocketing with like scientific evidence, like legit scientific evidence, the gun our digestive system directly impacts what's going on in our brain. And yes, physical health and mental health are so tied together. The future of healthcare will be you won't just go get your diabetes checked. You will get your depression, your addiction, your mental health, your medical health, your whatever it is, whether you need an MRI, an EKG, you need a Prozac, you'll get it all in one spot. And that's what it is, because it's all tied together. This body of ours is very, very interrelated. So yeah, that's the long answer. And my short answer is yes. What we eat absolutely has something, a lot to do with our health, our mental health.
I love that. And that's why
same with exercise as well. Throwing that in there as well. One of my first things I tell people is, you're anxious, you gotta start exercise. I don't care if it's 10 minutes a day. It's it's such an important thing for mental health. Eat right and exercise.
I think that's such a beautiful thing. And like, listen, like when, the reason why so many people who get out of these situations, a lot of them, like, again, physical movement, right? You call it fitness in general, or just eating right. A lot of them are going through that. Like, they find ways to better their bodies so that they can better their minds. And I think that, that is just, obviously, it's one of several things, but I think that it's a powerful, simple thing that a lot of people can do to really help them get out of their funk.
Yeah.
Right?
Start small. Go for a walk, 10 minutes. I don't, if somebody was like, they'll say, like, I haven't gotten off the couch, get off the couch for 5 minutes. Do something. That's it. Just get up and go. Start small. Do one push-up. I don't care, but get going. Do something every day.
Yeah, so powerful. Ken, so I have some quick questions. And a lot of these are I'm kind of moving things around because I call these rapid fire questions. But
go for it.
I'm going to jump into number 2 here specifically because number 1 is more for a company. But for number 2, I think I want to get your opinion on this. If today, Ken, was your last day on planet Earth, and in this very moment, this was going to be the only advice that you could give to your kids, to your future family, to your coworkers, the people around you in your life, if this moment right now, all you had was this moment, to just share a piece of advice that you give to everybody, what would it be?
It's a weird one to ask me because we're going on a tangent. That's a personal tangent of mine. I mean, I am a person who believes in God. I would definitely go. I wouldn't do it. I couldn't have made it. I didn't come on here to say that, but but that's it. That would be my answer. Absolutely.
That what?
Put God first in your life. Definitely. Spirituality is essential.
No, so I want you to unpack that for a second. I mean, again, share as much as you need. I want you to don't hold back. So, like, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
It means that life is hard and challenging, and we need to look outside of ourselves for strength because we can't do it alone. And that's just my belief. That's my personal belief. Sure. I work with people. I work with people who are atheists, and I don't judge someone who is, and I can help somebody who is. But just that's for me. You're talking to me, talking to my kids, my loved ones. That's Ken Pecoraro, definitely. Yes.
I love that. So
I know that I would not have me, no doubt about it.
And it's funny that you say that, right? So like I grew up not very religious, and I'm not super religious today, but I am very faithful, right? I am filled with faith, and I know that, like you, I don't believe I got here by accident. Like, there was a lot of things that I definitely could not have controlled to get here, and I didn't do this alone, right? And so I have a lot of faith in that, and I think it's powerful that you say that. And again, like, listen, I want you to be open and blunt and honest, and it's okay to share. So I'm just saying, is there one thing that you feel like if someone wants to become, and I'm not just saying this to skew things, but I'm just curious even for myself, like, is there something, like, is it more just going to church on a weekly basis, or do you have a prayer you say every day? Like, how do you experience your faith a little bit? I'm just curious.
We can spend a whole another hour on that one.
Sure, man, sure.
Actually, you know what? A lot of it starts with asking yourself some of those honest questions. You know what I mean? And be willing to look at some of the answers. That's very similar to kind of what we talked about with mental health. We'll leave it at that.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. Just because, like, listen, like, I think that mental health and faith have a lot to do with each other, right? Because I feel like
purpose, meaning, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And look, like, the hopelessness, right? The purposelessness, and like all of that. And looking for meaning. I think you're right. You're hitting the nail on the head. That's amazing. So, how we flip to this? What is one skill or habit that you've worked on yourself that has helped you get to where you are today mentally?
I say this to you on probably every one of your podcasts, so I'm sorry if anybody finds it repetitive. Positive self-talk. Having that. Taking those negative thoughts and fighting them. I almost look like Yoda fighting against like the Sith Lord. Like, the negative thoughts come at you, you got to fight back with the positive ones. Yep. No, that's not true. This is the truth. Whatever it is you say to yourself. I'm a loser. No, I'm not a loser. I'm just having a bad day. Or I'm going to fail. No, this is going to be a struggle and it's going to be hard, but I'm not going to fail. Coming up with a realistic answer to every negative thing. I'm stupid. No, you just did something stupid. You're not stupid. I'm a smart person who just made a bad move. Whatever. You got to contradict the negative all the time. So, and I've helped a lot of people with that. And then, I do it to this day, I used to not be able to speak in public because I'd say to myself, you're going to make a fool out of yourself. You're going to say something stupid. And you know what? I do say stupid stuff and I do make a fool out of myself. But you know what, though? It's, I'm still here to live another day. So once you convince yourself of that, and you do that through positive self-talk. What's the big deal if you say something stupid? Okay.
Sure. I think that's so cool. For those of you listen, like the positive self-talk, which I know a lot of you are like, oh, that's just phony baloney, I don't need motivation, blah, 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 blah. What you speak into, like what you talk about or what you speak becomes your existence, right? You can speak all this into existence. Like, I've repeatedly said to myself that I am a billionaire. And it's not just a money kind of conversation there, but I want to think that way. I want to think abundantly. I want to think powerfully. I want to think positively about myself and for those around me. It's not just enough to say I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. Like, it's not really how it works. But when you could really I think that more than anything, if you could start speaking powerful words and statements into your life, where I live an abundant life, right? I am grateful for my life. I live a life of gratitude. In everything I can find gratitude. I find love in everything. Right? When you say these things, these powerful statements, instead of just I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, like it changes and rewires your mindset. But it also happens just as, in almost every aspect of life. Where if you want to have more money, if you can say I am a networking master. I am a networking master. Right? I'm a sales master. When I used to say these things to myself, it was when I was terrible, but I would say those things out loud because it would force me to say, like, okay, well, the actions I'm doing today are not really that of a sales master or a networking professional. Like, I should probably go do something if I want to believe that. Right? So I would force myself to get into these uncomfortable situations because I wanted to start believing it, and I'd have to do the work in order to believe that. So that's pretty awesome. So Ken, I'm going to leave everything off with this. For those people who want to get a hold of you or who have somebody in their life who they need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get in contact with you specifically, or CPC?
Well, CPC is 1-800-250-9811. You're not going to get me. You're going to give out my email. It's kpecoraro@cpcbhc.org. Yeah, I'll answer an email.
Awesome. So what was the phone number one more time? I want to put it up on the screen down below.
1-800-250-9811 is the CPC hotline.
Don't be afraid to make the phone call. If you need help, do not be afraid to make the phone call. It'll be one of the best decisions you ever made. I can assure you.
I hope so.
Look, I love it so much. Look, I'm going to give a quick announcement. So, for those of you who don't know, Ken's story with how we got connected, it was through a mutual friend who's sadly no longer with us, and it was a crazy, terrible accident that happened. But we have a memorial for her. It's a tennis tournament. So I want to give a shout out for those of you who want to be a supporter of mental health, who also maybe play a little bit of tennis, but who want to support the cause and want to be a part of some amazing events. They have an event coming up in her name, the 2021 Nancy Lobel Memorial Tennis Tournament, which is coming up on July 12th, 2021 this year. About a month away, a little over a month away. It's in Oberon, New Jersey, and it's going to be from about 8 to 4 p.m. I would love to have all of your support. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be supporting the event. I'd love to have all of you be there. So if you want to support the cause, you can check it out. Look up CPC's website, which is what, Ken?
cpcbehavioral.org.
cpcbehavioral.org. Again, it's the 2021 Nancy Lobel Memorial Tennis Tournament. I'm going to be there this July 12th, and I'd love to see you all there. Other than that, Ken, I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the listeners out there. Thank you so much for listening to episode 9 of the Step 1 podcast. We hope this episode gave you the ideas, the motivations, and the strategies so you can take your first step and your next steps in business and in life. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.